to Coffee and Chaos. I'm Alina, your host, and Trina,
Hi.
you're in the hot seat.
Thank you.
Be prepared.
I'm ready.
Today is going to be quite the conversation. Solomon, are you prepared?
I don't know if I'm prepared.
Get ready.
Based on the talk that's been happening before we started recording.
And on that note, we brought some ladies. Vivian,
Hi, ladies.
you're back.
I know.
Instead of your daughter Lexi, we brought you back.
I know you guys like her better than me.
No.
Well, there's no Lexi without you, right?
Yeah.
I know.
And she's in timeout anyways right now. She's in the doghouse with us, remember?
Yep.
We had quite the stories we heard yesterday.
Of course. She's full of them.
Yeah. And today we have such a pleasure to bring Auntie Sheryn.
Hello, my love.
How are you?
I am good. I am good.
And you are mama to 3 crazy little badasses.
4.
Four.
Four.
Ooh, one boy, 3 girls.
You know what? I wasn't even thinking on Jeanette. I was thinking.
What? Oh,
She's
you're.
gonna kill
Oh
me.
my gosh.
Well, you know what? Because she's kind of her own person. Aunt Jeanette kind of is her own person. She's the See, look at her mama can't even say.
Aaliyah is her.
Oh yeah, Leah, her daughter is yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have the pleasure of listening to some knowledge today.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Solomon, you ready to get into this one?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like we haven't been here in a while. Like we haven't seen you in a while.
Well, it's good to be missed.
Yeah. Well, we're back now, so let's go.
Okay.
Viv, are you ready?
I'm ready.
This one really means a lot to me. Actually, I think it's going to touch a lot of people. And I don't even know what the segment would be called, because the younger generation today, and I'm going to speak for Seth's generation and younger, because I feel like my daughter's still part of the generation with us, but whether it's social media or whether we've raised them to just be so outspoken, that they have a voice. And in that voice comes from their house, right? So I know our generation, definitely Auntie Sheryn's generation, what happens in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
There's so many family secrets. And we grew up, everything was hush hush, and well, that girl's dad is so-and-so, but don't say nothing. And that mom did this, but don't say anything. And anything that ever happened in our house, and I'm talking about the most obvious thing is and it was usually little girls. Now that we've gotten older, I've realized it was also little boys that were getting molested. And anytime they told their parents, it was just that generation of protection. And I always wonder, who were you protecting? The family, the parent that did, or the uncle that did the molesting? Because you weren't protecting the kid, right? But everything was, shh, we don't say nothing. Shush, we don't say anything. Was it the embarrassment? Or for me particularly, and I'm not going to get too much into it, an example of what I'm saying is my brother and I, quote unquote, supposedly have a sibling out there. It's never been proven. It was never discussed until my brother and I went to junior high. And really, it's never really been discussed anyways. It's just all these rumors floating around until, the girl and I had a conversation a few years back. But I'll never know unless she does a DNA test, right? But there wasn't a conversation it wouldn't be with my mom, because my mom has no part of it, but with my dad, because my dad is sick, so we can't even have a conversation. And the siblings all like to chirp, right? But nobody knows the truth. And this girl's dad was supposedly somebody else, and supposedly somebody else, and also supposedly my dad. So we grew up in this thing of do or do we not? Well, now, even if I do, I don't care. I'm too old for it, right? But I saw the family that my dad had that she did miss out on, if she was. But that was something that she has to deal with, not necessarily something that I have to deal with. But it's just always in the back of my head. Is it? Isn't it?
So you still don't know if that's your sister?
So here's the ugly part. No, she's not my sister. She can never be my sister. She will never be my sister.
I mean, biologically.
Yeah, because I only have one sister. And even if biologically she was my sister, she's not my sister. I'm 50 years old. There's no room. I have one sister who we all know. And you think there's any more room?
So unless she
You don't-
takes a DNA a DNA to prove
Yeah.
that she's connected, but even at that point, it's kind of
And there's no ill will towards her personally.
Right.
You know
You
what I
don't
mean?
want to bless someone with
No,
like,
I have enough blessings and blesses that I've given and got. Like, there's just no room. And honestly, because of what my sister and I as sisters have gone through together, from the time, birth obviously till now, I honestly don't think I could ever even consider, like, no. Like, I have one sister. That's all. I don't need another one.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you're probably just looking at it like you don't want to like emotionally and mentally get invested in someone else because you have
yeah.
all.
But here's the crazy part. If it was a brother, I probably could. Don't roll your eyes at me.
Oh
Well,
my God.
well,
I
why
wasn't
is-
rolling my eyes.
well,
at you.
why is-
But
I know
I
what's the
think-
difference.
Because my sister, as much as we fight, as much as we love,
Mhm.
it's always just been us two connected. So there,
Well, you're still going to
history.
be connected.
but I would feel like I would betray my sister in a sense. I'd feel like that. I don't know. There's just, but if it's a brother, it's a guy. It's a brother. Hey, what's up, bro? Like, but this girl, nah.
Is
I'm
it
good.
because of how she came? Because you've known her for before that was even said. Did you know her?
No, because I don't think she's a bad person. I
Yeah,
actually,
just not
because she grew up in our town, we end up,
interested in a
yeah, I
relationship
think.
with her.
And I also wonder if we all know Alina has this bit of craziness. I mean, I make it very clear, right? Because she's a girl, you don't get my dad. That's my daddy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sharing my daddy with another girl. Like, I'll share my daddy with a brother and with another brother and 5 other brothers, but I'm his only daughter. So I think that's a part too that
You think that's how Angel feels too? Like, I don't want to share
with her dad or with
Yeah.
me.
with her dad.
Well, Angel shares her dad with me.
yeah.
And Angel shares her dad. So
because Angel knows that's her dad.
yes, and her dad is very good to me, but Angel's uncle, who happens to be my godfather, and obviously Angel was born after me. So before she was even born, her uncle baptized me. He just passed away on Friday night, and she instantly texted me. And so yesterday and today I've called Angel's dad, which would be my quote unquote stepdad, right, to check on him because that was his brother.
Yeah.
So it's a whole loop, right?
Yeah.
So she shares her dad with me. And sometimes she does get mad because he treats me really good. But I think it's because since we were little, that's all we've known, right? So for me, I'm not sharing my dad with nobody. I mean, and I do share him with a bunch of women because my cousins live with them. My cousins
But
take care of
technically,
them.
if that's your biological sister, you're already sharing her with him.
No, I'm not. She doesn't have
It's
him.
okay.
She doesn't have him. I have
doesn't-
him.
She does not want to know the truth.
Yeah.
That's it.
I did
Thank
tell
you.
no, because I did tell her because a lot of stuff has happened, and I handled it in a very ugly way a few years back when my dad was in the hospital and had a collapsed lung. I will say that. I did tell her that you need to do a DNA test because God forbid when he dies, if that is your father, you should be going to his funeral, even though you don't know him and didn't grow up with him.
Yeah.
But if you don't, why are you coming to a funeral for a man that doesn't even acknowledge you? Like, that's how I felt. That's how I feel. So I would love for her to do it just so that she does know and so that we do know. And at the end of the day, if that is her dad, I have no right to tell her anything, but you're not my sister. Like, so, but do you see the family secrets of what I'm saying is how as kids.
Oh, it's affecting you?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Like, it affects us kids, even as we're older,
Yeah.
that you don't like. I never knew that Angel's dad was not my dad because we called him dad. But then we went to Mexico and they'd be like, oh, your dad's here. I'm like, okay, wait. So I just have 2 dads. But I never understood until I got older and realized myself, oh, so Frank isn't my dad. He chooses to be my dad. And David is my biological father. But I had to put it together for myself. And when I would go with my family in Mexico, they would say, Frank's not your dad. I was like, yeah, he is. And they're like, no, he's not. Well, I never understood it. Family secrets, right? So now that I'm older, I understand it. So that's when I was telling Vivian, and Vivian says, in my kitchen, mind everybody.
It's something about that kitchen.
And I know it is. That kitchen just brings out everything. And so I was explaining to her my story. She goes, well, imagine. Now, you got to remember, that Vivian and I are talking. I kind of probably was shedding a tear as I'm sharing my story with her. We're having this emotional moment. She goes, well, imagine being in junior high and there's a kid there and you say, is Vic Salcido your dad? And the kid says, yes.
You just,
And the other kid says, well, he's my dad too.
No,
And
I
What
said
other
he's my
kid?
dad too.
hold on. And I said, Vivian, I'm so sorry that happened to you. It didn't happen to me. I'm the one that told the kid. That kid needed to know. And I was like, oh, Vivian, you were the bad person.
Wait, how did you know?
So now she can tell her story.
Because my father and my brother have the same name.
Vic Salcido.
Right.
Okay.
And so he might have been 12 years old. We were in junior high. And I was TAing in detention and he was in there. And I just walked by the desk and I asked, is your dad Vic Salcido? He goes, yeah. And I go, yeah, so is mine. And that little boy went home spun. When we got older, I talked to my
Didn't they
brother,
check him out of school like the next day?
I don't know if they checked him out the next
So
day.
he went
but
home to
did-
your
he-
dad?
Oh, yeah. He had to ask them if he had a sister. My father lived a mile away from us, and his second family did not know about us.
Wait,
Did not
he was
know that
living two lives?
he had. No, he
Oh.
left my mom when
Oh, okay.
when my mom was pregnant with me, but that's how he went home to find out he had a sister. He said that he spun that whole way walking home and having to ask him, "Do I have a sister?"
How did you know about him, but he didn't know about you?
Well, because I grew up with my mom, she was bitter. And so I had always heard stories about him. I didn't know my father, but I always heard stories. And I come from a big family. My father comes from a family of 14. So I have
Oh,
a
wow.
very big family. And so, when you get that age, you're curious, like, well, who the heck is this person? Because all I'm hearing is bad, So I'd do the stupid stuff and call her and hang up on her, the wife. That's a whole story too, because she was the babysitter. So,
What?
oh yeah, she was my mom's babysitter. My dad.
The
left
babysitter became the wife?
yes.
Well, the mistress.
Well, whatever. So I grew up with that kind of stuff in my house, and so I knew, but everything I heard was bad. So, at that point you're young and you're stupid and you want to do stupid stuff. So I would just and hang up and and to try to see who he was, but he was already having issues with my younger brother Vic at times. So I guess to get two kids, troubled kids, he just was kind of never he wanted to get to know me.
So how many are there?
There's four of
with
us
your
from,
mom?
There's four of us from the first marriage, and then he has 3 other kids.
So he has 7 kids total?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so are all 7 of you good?
You mean good?
Like,
Well,
do you have a relationship?
Like eventually at some point, you guys all
No,
talk,
my
right?
mother has other children. I am an only child. I am an only child. My
All
mother has
right.
other children. I am an only child.
From Vic Salcido.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then he's got 3 kids
Oh,
from his second marriage.
okay.
And me and Vic, I talk. I try to keep in contact with him, and I talk to him.
So he forgave you for traumatizing him
Oh,
at
yeah.
12?
Oh yeah.
So when
But
you
we
were
still laugh
asking him, you
about
were
it. We
doing it
still
in a
laugh
very
about it.
you already knew that was your brother.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did it to
You-
taunt
I was
him.
just being
Spiteful.
a little shit at 13 years old. To like,
Who'd you learn that from? I'm just kidding.
But do you think that I feel like those conversations, which again, we're not blaming any parents. It was a totally different time, a totally different generation. People don't talk they don't communicate like we do today, right? They don't go to therapy and all that. But I feel like those conversations are conversations that should be had, that you should be prepared for, so that when some girl comes up to you when you're 12 and says,
you would think that eventually you live a mile away from us in the same small town. There was only one junior high then. So, I mean, you had to figure we were going to end up eventually meeting,
I would.
you
I
know?
know.
So,
Crazy.
yeah, it was. But, and we laugh about it to this day because he's always like, man, that messed me up for a long time, sis. He goes, you messed me up for a long time.
What did he say that they told him?
They had to explain it to him. So he's
Oh.
like, yeah, and then I was kind of like a hit and miss in between, some of those years just because
well, at least it was explained to him. Like when we kind of found out when my brother was in junior high, And again, it's not my mom's explaining that I felt like she needed to. It should have been my dad's, but my dad being mentally sick, he couldn't, right? Like it was my brother came home, kind of like your story, almost identical to your story, and asked my mom and to my mom's defense, she just told us what little truth she knew. And according to my dad at the time, no, right? So that's what we're going off of. But other people kept pressing the issue. So who knows? So at least with him, they sat and explained to him and said, oh, yeah, we have a whole other family.
Vivian, I'd like to ask you a question.
Uh,
How much time passed between when you found out from your mother, who you said was bitter, to when you actually told your brother?
well, that was the first time I had met him. That was the first time I had ever seen him that day. And
But
Oh,
did
that's
you
it.
know all those years?
but I knew, yes,
Oh, okay.
I knew growing up that he had another family. I knew that, that he left for the babysitter. I knew,
So you
know,
didn't have a relationship with your dad?
no,
Okay.
He left when your mom was pregnant, you said, right?
yeah,
So you told him the first time you saw him.
oh yeah.
Okay.
If you knew,
Yep, I pulled no punches. I was like,
Now, my next question is this: do you think you told him to be a little shit, like you said, or was there that whole fascination with having a brother and not being an only child?
oh no. I mean, I have 3 older siblings, so
So she says what she's saying is,
She was joking about.
yeah,
my mother has 4 children. Okay,
but Vivian is the only
But-
child.
but I am an only child. I do not speak to my siblings.
So do you
Oh.
understand what she means?
So
Okay.
we are estranged.
Forgive me for taking you literally.
I know, I was too, and I was like, wait, what?
We are estranged. So,
But she speaks to Vic.
but I do speak to Vic. I will
Yeah.
call Vic. I like Vic.
That's the one that's from the other.
Yeah.
Auntie Sheryn, why do you think that generation was so? Was it protection, embarrassment? Was it a social status that people were so? What happens in our house stays in our house, so secretive.
Yeah. You my time growing up, there was no domestic violence or, you know, children's services coming around. You kept everything in the house. There was a time where if a woman got beat up and the police would come, they would tell them it's a family affair. They wouldn't do nothing. So everything was a secret.
You could
And you
put your
tried to
kids-
protect each other. But I felt we damaged
By
trying to
keeping it a
protect.
secret?
Yes.
That's when
Yeah.
you could hit your kids.
Well-
And if the cops came, they told them kids, you get what you get.
Mm. You
So-
should have just left it like that.
And you could spank them right in front of the cops and they wouldn't do nothing.
Nope.
And
They
tell that
wouldn't.
kid, oh, that's what you get.
Well, part of me agrees with that today. It still should. The
Oh,
parents should be able to still spank their child today. That's been taken, but I mean, I still spanked my kids. I didn't care. But anyways,
So
that's a
did
whole
I.
different.
Mm.
But I feel like with the younger generation, with therapy that's more talked about, with people getting more help, people are able to.
Be honest.
Mm-hmm. I don't believe in family secrets anymore. For my own issues, on top of like I've talked about in the past, like the monster under my bed per se.
Yeah.
I kept that a secret for so long, and I don't dwell on it. But I definitely in our house, there's no locked doors. There's really no closed doors. We do not have secrets. If you have to have a secret, then it's wrong. If you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, that's why you're keeping it a secret. But I also say that secrets keep little girls molested still, keeps little boys molested still, wives still. Like, I don't believe, for the most part, women in today in 2024, like I always say that Nicole Simpson died so that women no longer had to get hit. And what I mean by that is, like you said, the cops would come and nothing would happen. And then when they played the tapes of her calling the cops when OJ was hitting her, everybody heard those tapes and were so embarrassed that the cops were doing nothing, that domestic violence became such a big thing after that, that cops were actually arresting husbands and
Yeah.
boyfriends and even wives, because women hit men too.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
so I feel like today, if you're getting hit, I don't want to say you choose to get hit, but there's a lot of girls that I know that stay in relationships you can leave, you should leave, but they choose to stay because we shouldn't be getting hit anymore. We should be protecting our daughters and our sons now. It's easier today than it was in 1930 and 1940.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that with my story and with Vivian's story that she just said, that stuff like that still happens today? That there's still
Yes.
secrets, that there's in
Yes.
the sense of people having kids and not telling other families and
There's a story about a young man that for 35 years thought that someone else was his dad. And I would see it torment him. And he came to me one day and asked if I'd make arrangements with the person he thought was his dad. Well, I made arrangements with his uncle, supposedly his uncle, and they went to lunch. And his uncle told him, if you were ours, we would embrace you, but you're not. So his aunts, because I kept on telling him, you look like this person, but I didn't put it together. So his aunt went to a baby shower, and one of our friends was there and made the mom tell the aunt that that was their nephew. So when he found out, he was happy, but also protecting himself.
yeah.
And it really messed with him and the family.
So that was his dad, the guy he thought was his dad.
No, was
No.
not his dad.
He just resembled him, and everyone thought
Oh no, the one that they
that he
met.
actually.
They met.
Okay,
They
okay,
finally
okay.
met.
And that person was his actual
His dad said, I don't need a DNA. He looked just like him. And I kept on saying, you look like him. You look like
Yeah.
them. And they smiled. But it took a toll on him. It took a toll on his wife because she would see his pain.
Yeah.
And I would see it hurt. It really,
Well, I
really
think a lot
hurt
of these
him.
adults make decisions thinking they're doing it what's best for the kid. Like, oh, if that's my kid, he's better off there. I'm just going to steer. But at the end of the day, you're hurting the child.
Yes. Yes.
You know, that goes to Paul, my husband, who he had children when he was in the military. He had been stationed in Illinois. Had these two young girls. He was not a good fit in Illinois in the 60s, early 70s whenever
Damn
he wasn't
Mexicans.
good there.
Yeah, girl.
So he wanted to come back here to California to get a job, bring his family down here. Well, the wife ended up having an affair. Okay, took those girls, and he never saw them again. Okay, so he would always tell, of course he never kept it a secret, but he would talk about it. Like, I wonder whatever happened. I wonder if I'll ever see them. And it took a toll on him, and it made a path after that. But 40 some odd years later, because his sister was on that ancestry thing, and one of the girls had got a DNA test thing, so they took it. They got a hold of Lily because it gets to who you're related to.
Lily is Paul's sister.
Paul's sister. And so they got in touch with him. Well, the mother, of course, never wanted to tell them. Okay, I think they were young. They found a picture of her, and she's like, don't ever ask again, right? And they were in their 20s, and I think they had asked again, and the mom wasn't going to give up anything, right? So not until they did that DNA, they called and I think you're our dad.
And they're close to him now.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful thing to witness.
Yeah.
The relationship that has transformed.
Yeah.
Through this, because it doesn't always work out for everybody.
Yeah.
But then, when they came and we met them, and they were like, "Well, why'd you abandon us?" And she said, "You left because you had an affair. And where's our brother?" It's like, one, you have no brother. Okay, you don't have a brother. You have a sister, but you have no brother. But it
Is the mom still alive? The
Yes.
ex-wife? And do you know if Paul's daughters have said anything to their mom?
Not so much.
I mean, at
so,
this
but
point,
I
it doesn't
think
even like. I was gonna say
mean,
that
I would be
earlier.
mad.
they are.
I don't know what.
The parents are like you, Republican. I mean, that white, like, okay,
So the mom's Caucasian
yes,
and Paul's Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it is
Yeah.
kind of sad because, like you said earlier,
And they grew up
what the
different.
choices that we make affect
Yeah.
our kids, and
Yeah.
I don't know. What does she feel like
But
she was
see, they
protecting
grew
them?
up different because one, they are not white with blonde hair and blue eyes.
They're
Oh.
brunette.
They're a little tan and brunette.
She said a little
Girls.
tan. They got a little tan
You know,
going on.
look just like Paul. You cannot miss. Stacy does.
Aw.
Really?
Just like Paul and Carrie. Yeah. Just like Paul. When we got off the airplane for the very first
Mhm.
visit,
You're
Paul's
all
like,
no DNA
Paul,
needed.
Paul goes, "Oh, we got to go." I go, "No, you don't. They're right here." And he goes, "No, we got." I go, "No, they're right in front of you." And he goes, "Well, how do you know?" And I'm going,
Because I'm looking at you.
because, yeah.
That's so
And
awesome.
they
that he
have,
gets to
in
have
fact,
that
because
with
she's
them.
coming, they're coming next weekend. So for a quick few, the one she comes,
I think
she
when-
comes often.
When you make
They have a great relationship.
Well, they deserve that. Those girls
Yes,
deserve
they
to have their
Yes.
dad.
Yes,
Yes.
they
There's
do.
a lot of girls that don't get to have their dad.
they were robbed of it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I told the girl that could or could not be our sibling. That the one thing I did say
Well,
in
you
the
don't
end
want
was,
her to be.
well, I did say to her is, my heart hurts for you if you did the DNA and it came out that he is your father. And the reason being is you missed out on some of the most amazing grandparents.
But she didn't
And-
choose that.
No,
didn't
she
choose that
didn't.
life.
She didn't. And if I was her, I'd be upset with my mom. I'd be like if I everybody jokes that my sister's dad is my actual dad and to do a DNA test, and I'm like, no, I love my daddy. I'm not giving so I don't
She doesn't want to take your dad away, even if she is your
she
biological
couldn't if she
sister.
wanted to. He's my
But
dad.
you see, on how hurtful those kind of things are.
I know.
Like my aunts have always kind of reached out, and when they would see us, they would always come by, because they do like a family picnic. At
your dad's
their-
sisters.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the whole family.
Yeah.
But they
Because there's
do-
14 of them, you said, right?
They do a family picnic in the summer, and they do a thing at Christmas, and they would always, Vivian, why don't you guys come by? Why don't you go? When my mom was alive, it was always that battle of, do you betray your mom and do you try to seek out a family that you want to belong to, right? That physically you're born,
Right.
you come from
Yeah.
that family.
Oh, so you felt like you would be betraying your mom, or did your mom tell
No,
you that you would?
No,
be
she didn't. But I've always felt like it was a betrayal. But see, the aunts always asked, and I think like when my dad died, I did go. I never went to see him.
Your
when
dad
he was,
passed away?
Yeah,
I, didn't
I
know
never
that.
went to see him in the hospital,
sorry.
and that was because for the fact why? Okay, we didn't have a relationship. You didn't. It was kind of like, no, why am I going to show up on your deathbed? I'm not going to have guilt
Did he
over it,
ask
but I'm not.
to see you?
No,
Oh, okay.
you didn't ask. People would tell me, but no, because you know what? A phone works two ways. And when I told my cousin, the sad thing about it is the aunts would always, Vivian, come, Vivian, come. But you know what? I never got an invitation from the guy who brought me here. I went to his funeral because you know what? Without him, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And out of respect for his kids.
Uh-huh.
Do you think with him passing, you and your brother were able to have,
Me and my brother have always had a relationship, though. Me and
even before he passed?
Yeah.
So
You
he
don't-
never got in the
yeah.
way of that?
You
Okay.
don't feel like
No, he would tell me, "Oh, I go home and Vivian praise you." To them. Because he was out on the streets doing his thing, and he would come by, and I'd shower him, feed him, but you can't stay. But I did what I could.
You're
for
a good sister.
him, but I always
do
told
you don't feel like the aunts, your dad's sisters reaching out to you, it was the link to your dad? Like, I feel like as an aunt, as my brother's sister, my brother would never
Mhm.
do what your dad did, like abandon his, you know what I
Kids,
mean?
yeah.
But I feel like I would make sure that I had a connection so that my brother, they had the connection
what?
through me.
I'll tell you, because my oldest son, before he went into the military, he got married, but he did it on the sly. So when he came back,
Mhm.
his grandparents paid to have another thing done for him, right? but his dad invited my dad to the wedding thing. So I had two of my kids with me, and I went to go introduce them. Like, this is my dad. And my dad turns around and goes, "Yeah, I'm Vic Salcido." And I'm like, "Okay, you ain't my dad. You ain't even gonna be their grandfather. So okay, you're Vic Salcido. You're Vic Salcido."
Oh,
How do
you
you
were-
how do you introduce yourself to somebody like
the
yeah?
machismo attitude though?
For him, yeah, I guess. So, but and I always looked
those are
at
his
it
own,
as like
those are his own demons.
the
Yeah.
aunts, yeah, you are welcoming me.
Mhm.
You are welcoming,
Right.
But the welcome that I'm looking for is not coming. So therefore, am I wanted? Am I wanted? Because
See-
he's not letting me know I'm wanted. You're letting me know I'm
Yeah,
wanted,
yeah.
but not the man that brought me here.
And I feel like with you, like with my dad being mentally ill, my family was like you just said how you would be as an aunt. The Pinedas, my dad's siblings, every single one of them always came and got Lena and little David. That's they. But my dad, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it is. He was mentally ill in Mexico with my grandparents. So my aunt and uncles here, they always came and got us. They always made us know this is your family, we are you, this is us. Like,
Yeah.
and we went because we knew my dad was in Mexico. So they extended the hand because he couldn't extend the hand. Where your dad could have extended the hand. It was a choice. Not but like Trina said, it was his own demons he was dealing
It
with.
was a choice.
I feel like
Yeah.
they just
And
feel
yeah,
guilty.
And at times, sometimes, if and you're trying and you're like, things get said and, people, he had once told me, I told him, I says, "But you don't even know me." And he goes, "But you keep coming around." So I went, "Never again." And I never did.
Damn, Viv, I'm sorry.
I just couldn't even imagine.
Like I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
He said
But
you
I'm
keep-
glad that you have a relationship with
And
your
everybody who worked with him.
How was
he's a
the
great guy.
babysitter,
He's a
nanny,
great
stepmom,
guy.
new wife with you?
Well, I gave her shit, in the beginning. But, I mean, I really don't have nothing against her. Shit happens. When you're 12, 13 years old, you just hear what you hear. And if it's all negative, then you're on a negative.
Yeah.
But, she's okay. She's okay. I don't have no qualms with her. We could
She's
talk.
Vic's mom.
Oh, yeah.
Is she still alive?
Yes, she is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, she is. I have no qualms with her. I mean, I was a child. Didn't know any better, but
Yeah.
and whatever your demons, you got to deal with all that on your own either, because what the choices you made too at the time
Yeah.
concerning the fact that he had another family, regardless of what one parent was like, he had a family.
Yeah, that was
he had others.
Yeah.
So I don't get how people do that.
He was trying to
well,
make
he
it
probably
disappear.
wanted,
Yeah.
he
He
probably
was trying
didn't
to-
want anyone to
Yeah.
know
Like
that he had this other family, and you went and
Oh, everybody
spoiled it for him.
Everybody
and
knew.
told Vic.
No, everybody knew.
but like Auntie Sheryn said, what did you say? Say it again.
He tried to make it disappear.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna start new. I'm gonna
And you
start
just
over.
kept coming around. That's why he was like,
You're
"You
like,
keep
I'm
coming
here.
around."
I'm
Well,
here.
not really. You know what? Not really. I mean, there was just a few years, and after that, it was like, oh,
I bet that was
No,
big of you
but
to
you
go to
will
his
know.
funeral and
but you will know.
Mm-hmm.
You will know.
Was it hard when you went to the funeral?
Not really. He's a man you never
Because you couldn't-
because
who
it
you
was a
more-
man
yeah.
I don't know. I knew of him. We knew of each other. I had to work for him a few
Yeah.
times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when basically it's like, well, you know what? You're on my birth certificate, and that's all. It's just a piece of paper.
But you know what I think, like when I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm running everything through through my head. Like just a few months ago, I came out of the bathroom at Disneyland, and she was standing right there. And mind you,
your possible
yeah,
biological
and I just remembered this, and I was standing there, and Loran and Seth are outside because we went to Disneyland, and I was like, oh, hi, and again, she's never done anything bad to me.
Wait, you went to Disneyland and she just happened to be there the same day you did?
Yes.
Well, she's from the same.
No,
she's-
no, no. So then she just happened to be the same day and went to the bathroom at the same
coinkydink.
time as you,
Yes.
in the
Coinc-
same bathroom as you, across
Yes,
all of
stalker.
Disneyland.
Yes. So when I
Okay.
came out of the bathroom and
sister.
saw her, I'm gonna punch you. I was frozen, and again, no ill will towards her. She's done nothing wrong to me. The girl's actually innocent in all of this because she doesn't know. I just froze and she's like, hi. And I was like, hi. And no, I was walking in the bathroom and she was walking out. And I obviously went to the bathroom, washed my hands, and I walk out and she's 5 feet from my kids. And I've never told Seth for sure. I don't know about Loran. I don't even remember if I had. Oh no, Loran found out because when my dad was in the hospital a few years ago, it all blew up. So I'm just looking at them and looking at her. And I said, Seth, Loran, this is her. And I said her name and she said hi to them. And I was like, and Seth's like, okay, I know my mom, something's not right. And Loran's like, oh, you're the first, right? So I was like, and she introduced her son. And then I didn't know what to do. We just walked away. And so Seth is the one that noticed it right away. Like, are you okay? And I said, well, that's supposed to be the girl. And Seth said it right away. Like, huh? She doesn't even look like you. Like, but it bothered me for like a good hour. And the hugs and the kisses and, like, come on, mom, cheer up. Like, but I think because my kids saw it and I felt like now I lied to them. I never were honest with them. I never told them because I just thought, like you said, it would just go away, right? It would disappear, Auntie Sheryn. And so then when I was faced with it, I was like, oh God. And even Seth said, how did I never know this? And I was like,
She's not going away, huh?
I was like,
Well, you
oh.
weren't
I was
keeping a
like,
secret.
So you
You
kept
just
your
don't
own
want it to
family
be a
secret.
thing.
yeah, but for me, again, and I know this sounds really ugly, but you have no bearing on my life. And I have no bearing on her life. You know what I mean? Like, I have no, and this is why it's a thing. Her mom has 2 brothers. Those 2 brothers married my 2 aunts.
So
So,
she's not going anywhere.
no. But
I'm just
You might as
I'm
well invite her to Thanksgiving dinner. Damn it, Alina.
I'm just
let
I'm
me just tell my sister you said that because when my sister watches this, Viv, you're axed out.
Oh, does your sister not want you to like she doesn't want it to be a thing either?
No, my sister actually teases me like, "Oh, your other sister," and I'll be like, like I told her about the Disneyland thing. She's like, "Oh, they met their aunt." I was like, "I will whoop your ass." Like the one time and the only probably time I'd probably be able to whip my sister's ass is over this subject.
Well, see, now it's no
Like-
longer a
like-
family secret.
Like,
So.
so I had to explain to the kids, like, at the end of the day, I have to go off what my grandparents, which are my dad's parents, and what little memory my dad, because I do ask my dad. So, who's your daughter? Who's your only daughter? What's my name?
Talk about a leading question.
Oh my God, you embedded that
Yeah.
in him.
So, my
I'm not
grandparents,
insecure about that at all.
not at all. I'm my daddy's girl. So at the end of the day, when I did ask my grandparents, because my grandmother, when my father became sick and all this stuff, they had to do the paperwork and he was, got Social Security for us and all this stuff. She went to her mother and said, is this David's child? If this is David's child, she is, because my grandparents are freaking amazing. If you're a Pineda, you are a Pineda. I don't care, right? And she said, no, it's not David's kid. So my grandma said, I don't ever want to hear a damn word from you ever again then. But my 2 aunts were married to the 2 brothers to the mother of this girl that kept pushing it. But she never came to Mexico. My grandparents never acknowledged her. And my aunts would send pictures of the girl and my grandma would just file it away like, you're not Lena. And I was like, no. So having to see her at Disneyland, it brought that and that was what this whole thing is like all these family secrets. We're teaching our kids to keep secrets, to not say anything. And we're really not protecting them. And we now live in a time where I don't have secrets at all. Like I do, everybody has a secret. So we do have some secrets, but nothing that would harm my kids, nothing that would harm my house, if that makes sense. And that's why I wanted you to come on, Auntie Sheryn, because it's such a different time. And I think a lot of it now is because there's social media, because you hear more stories, more like I go on TikTok and I go down and so many people now talk about being molested by their dads, their uncles, their brothers, their priests. You know what I mean? Everything is talked about. People finding out that they have other siblings, other family. You hear so much of it now. And I feel like even though it being out there, why do people still try to
Cover it up.
Yes, because it's going to come out one way.
Yeah.
What does the Bible say? Everything to dark comes to light.
Mm-hmm.
It's so scary and it surprises me that a mother would not want their, well, I guess everyone's situation is different, would want their kids not to know, like if they have other siblings or whatnot.
Yeah.
Because I know I mentioned to you before that like my ex-husband, when we were married, we had on our answering machine, there was someone who was calling for him to come give them an estimate, and it was actually a woman who was looking for him because she wanted him to take a DNA test for her son, and he didn't want to do it. But I said, "Well, like, is there a possibility that you could have?" And he was like, "Yeah." But this was like before me, right? And I said, "Well, no, you need to take it because you have daughters.
Yeah.
What if your daughter
Tries to hook
meets
up with
this
them.
kid and then
Mhm.
finds out that that's her brother?"
Yeah.
Like, it's like selfish not to want to do something like this. Like, she's not asking you for anything other than to confirm that you're her son's
Yeah.
father. It's not his fault. So we did it, and it was in fact his son.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't a secret because this was way before me. But he didn't know that he had a son that looks just like him.
How old was the kid at the time when she wanted the DNA?
I think he was under 18, but it was important to me as his wife then to you need
Good
to
for
know, like,
you, because
my
most women would turn a blind eye to it and just no,
no, I'm
don't
like
do
that
it.
if that's your son, that's your son. Like, you
Yeah.
figure out whatever you need to figure out. But especially because it was way before me. It
Yeah.
wasn't during.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
he we both well, he had another kid at the same time that I was pregnant at the same time somebody else was pregnant too, so but that's another thing. But
Karina's like, that's a whole nother story.
yeah, but I just feel like it was more important for me to know
Yeah.
for my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care about anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't want my daughter falling in love with some guy that happens to be her brother.
And there's a big old thing on TikTok about that right now. And they have kids too, a brother and a sister.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
'cause they
I don't
didn't know.
understand. Like, I know everyone's situation is different, but I feel like, come on, like, we as women and mothers can't be that selfish to be like, and so bitter to be like, come on, you're never gonna know who your dad is, and he cheated on us, and like,
I also think that if you're teaching your kid that young to lie and to keep secrets,
well,
then
no,
that's
it's gonna go against you. Like, I don't know what the story is with your stepdaughters, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
with their mother, like, obviously they love their mom,
Yeah.
but then they deserve to know their dad, and that's so good that they have a relationship with him. He deserves that.
Oh,
They
yeah.
deserve that, but it doesn't always work out that way,
It
like
was,
you said.
yeah, it was 40. What were they, like 46? So it's been maybe 5-6 years now.
But they didn't. That woman didn't actually lie. She just said, "Don't ask, right?" She just kept
Same
her
thing.
secret. Well, but yeah, true. But I'm talking more of like, if somebody gets molested by an aunt, an uncle, a brother, and then you tell your mom, and your mom says, "Don't tell anybody. Just keep it quiet," right? You're already teaching that kid one that it's okay at a young age. You're teaching that kid that we keep secrets and we lie, and that's kind of how you already start who she's going to be as a person, right, wrong, or indifferent, and that's the type of relationship she's going to get in. So when her husband starts to cheat on her, her husband starts to hit her, she's not going to tell anybody because we don't tell anybody, right? We keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Well, Nani, in your day and age, was it more of like you don't speak unless spoken to type of thing?
Yes.
Is that why it was like a hush hush, keep it to yourself?
Yeah.
Because it was
And
like a
whatever you did
respect.
in the house stayed in the house.
But the thing of it is that you had nowhere to go for help.
Not like today.
No.
You didn't have anywhere. What happened in the house is that we all have dysfunction in the
Mhm.
homes that we are coming from.
Mhm.
And when I was young, I just started to go off. When you're getting beat by your mom at home, you think that is a norm, and you deserve that. And she's not right. And not till we hit our teens when we start seeing different dynamics in different houses.
Mhm.
How, like, wow, but my house ain't like that. My house ain't like that. But then when they have when a parent comes from dysfunction
They
and
pass it
don't
down.
know any better,
Mhm.
and yet they, like, I think shame, not willing to admit that you have no control over a child who doesn't want to be controlled. What are
You were
they,
out of
where are
control
they
at that
going to
point.
go? What are they going to do? And when a parent is out of control, for the most part, because I remember once in junior high, I don't know. I don't remember what happened. I got suspended or something. And I went home and my mom was beating the shit out of me. And for whatever reason, I connected with the assistant principal because he would always talk to me. And because I don't know, maybe, well, he knew there were signs. There were signs, and I was always high. So, and so he would always tell me, like, you could be better. And for whatever reason, that particular day, my mom was she was just doing a number on me. And I ran back to the school. And this man brought me home and went in and talked to my mom. And when he came out, he just went, next time you get suspended, just come. I will never call your mother again.
Oh.
And that was that. And so every time
He didn't tell you stop getting suspended. He didn't tell you to stop doing the shit.
He's like,
you
I
were
know you're
doing.
gonna get suspended again, and when you do, just come to me.
And he never called my mother again. And
Because of whatever his conversation was, when he went in there with her.
whatever transpired in that living room, he just said.
And your mom didn't tell you anything afterwards?
I will never call again. I will never call your mother again. And he never did. He would just tell me, go home, and when you could be sober, then I'll let you back in school.
How old were you?
13.
Because he knew you were gonna get in trouble.
More than likely. They were always targeting me.
They were always targeting me. Not that I was doing bad or anything. You were 13 and I think I got suspended in junior high for fighting, but nothing else.
We were in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was the 70s,
I always forget you're older than me. I always forget that you're 10 years older than me. Dang.
But I mean that you kind of got to wonder, like, so.
Well, that's why I think I'm glad today. Like even mental health, we don't realize. Like I had my two guys on here, and the one that he's openly spoke about being molested and how his mom amazingly had his back. His mom sided with him. She didn't tell him, shh, we stay quiet. We don't anything, because with men's mental health, we don't realize a lot of it comes from things that as girls, they're molested too. We just assumed, or I know for me, boys didn't get molested. Only girls did. I was so young, I didn't know. And then as I got older and I realized, and I've talked to friends and they're like, yeah, it happened to me. I'm like, but wait, you're a guy. Who did it to you? And they're like, well, my dad. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. And even now with all the news, with all the social media, we realize it's the sex trafficking and everything is so bad, right? We hear about all these different stories. And that's why for me, like with Gia, who's 13, I talk to her all the time. Nobody's touched you, right? And she's like, what? I'm like, nobody's touched you. Like, you're safe. You've been safe. She's like, and she looks at me like, yeah, but I feel like these are questions that need to be asked and things that need to be talked about, because if God forbid something happened, we don't know what that person would tell her, don't say nothing, don't tell anybody or else.
But even as young kids, when we have that traumatic incident within the home, you don't want to tell anybody about it.
No.
Because you're like, whose parent does this? Whose parent does this?
Yeah, and
You know?
normal.
And so it's tough. Not to speak ill about my mom, but because when I was young, when I was with 13, maybe 14, I don't know, somewhere in between there, because she didn't know how to deal with me. She didn't know how to deal with me. And so, she decided that in order maybe to wake me up, I don't know, but she tried to hang herself in our garage and told me, because of you, I no longer want to live in this house with you. I don't want to be in this house with you. And she proceeded to do what she did. And I was the only one home. So I had to call my brother to have him take the garage door off, because you couldn't pull it because she had it wrapped around the rafter and the doorknob. So, but when that's said to you as a kid, I would rather die than exist with you. That kind of sets something off in me, so that just the trajectory and the shit in my life just kind of,
That was a volcano that erupted and just set you off.
yeah. So those secrets, like who do you tell that to? Who do you tell that to?
And like you said back then, who do you tell that to?
Who do you say that to, and how do you deal with it? Because there was no therapy for kids. There was no, you know, after that there was just drugs, and let me numb and let me not feel and let me not. Okay, fine. So when she would tell me why don't get out, I would get out.
Yeah.
13, 14, 15 years old. I just
Do you think
she
she
would either
blamed you
put me
for the
somewhere
affair?
or no, I don't think so. She had it.
But
It is.
now that you're seasoned, you know that that's not like that was had nothing to do with you.
Oh, those
No,
were her inner demons herself she was
Yeah.
dealing with.
yeah, now,
Yeah.
but you know what? It's funny because you know what? You tuck that so far away, and
Mhm.
I didn't deal with it until come like 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Did it come back to a head only because of who I'm married to? And so things transpire in our lives that you
Mhm.
think like I've dealt with that, but it'll come back up until
Mhm.
you really have to deal with that acknowledgement and how that set the tone in your life and the trajectory in which it
Well,
spun
parents
you.
leave
You
the
know,
biggest, hardest impression on us, whether they realize it or not. Even us with our own kids, we don't realize how big of an impression, right, wrong, or indifferent, that we leave. And words like that, even though you've gone to therapy, you don't know. Do you ever? I don't think you ever forget something like that. It's traumatizing what she was doing, let alone what she was saying to you. How does therapy heal that? Do you heal that?
no,
Do
because
you?
you know what, that set the precedence even like in other relationships. Like, fine, if you're uncomfortable and you don't want to be around me, then I'm one to duck out real quick. Like, okay, fine, and I bye. Don't see you. Wouldn't want to be you then, and I can shut that emotion off really quick. And it's really sad because I always wondered I could do that with my own kids, and I
Mhm.
even when they were young and
Mhm.
little, because you're hurting me and I don't want to hurt, and I'm not, and if that's how you feel, and I don't care that I birthed you, but this is my trauma, but I didn't know it. This is my trauma, so I could shut down real quick
Yeah.
and take a different, take that a different approach to it. Like, it don't matter,
Mhm.
because that if you don't want, then I don't need to be here, and I will remove myself from that, and that
You
just
didn't have a problem detaching yourself and
oh yeah,
The whole
I could detach
breaking
real easy.
breaking generational curses and generational trauma has just been a thing recently, right? People are just realizing, um, just because you're raised that way doesn't mean it was okay.
Mhm.
Let's change this. Let's adjust. Let's realize the one thing that somebody taught me was your trauma and your hurt isn't your kid's trauma and hurt. And I was like, and it was actually my grandpa that taught me that, my mom's dad. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, you went through that. She didn't go through that. She doesn't need to feel what you felt. So be
Yeah.
better, do better. And I was like, oh, and Loran was probably like between 5 and 8 when he taught me that. And so, because I think those first few years, I put her through a lot of my trauma, a lot of my hurt, a lot of my
And
pain.
it's good you had people who are willing to point it out to you. If you don't have people, to tell you that's why are you doing that, and that's not cool, and that's not okay. If you don't allow people to come into your life to do that, and I didn't allow people to come into my life for a long, because I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately my kids got that, even though I was realizing I need to be different, but that stuff is so ingrained, and it is. It's not a cop out to say it's hard to change.
Oh,
That
it is.
tape is a hard one to change for me, just for me. Maybe not other people, but just for me.
I think it's hard for
You know,
anybody to change.
and
To change, you have to really take a look at yourself and say, I don't like this, this, and
and
this.
want to and
Yes.
want to and know that even as we age, our children may not see it, or even if they do see the subtle changes, you know it hurts when they don't acknowledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you already are preconceived. You already people already have a notion about you and a prejudgment, and not like where I've been to where I am today.
Yeah.
Because if you only knew.
Yeah.
So in regards to, well, do you share that with your kids, or are you referring to people just in general? Like, do your kids know what you went through to get to where you're at now, so that they're able to say,
You know,
"Mom, I'm
like
proud of you."
my oldest, yes, and then sometimes Lexi's a little harder to talk to because she just either you don't want to hear it or you don't.
But
you
Lexi's
know.
a lot like you, like where she's also very non-emotional. Like,
Keep everything in check.
yes, she's like, okay,
Well,
that
they
happened.
learned that from
Got it.
us.
Okay, got that. Got like I don't got time to deal with that. I don't got time to do that. I got to take the kids there. She blocks like Lexi's a lot like Vivian, where they block things all day long so that they don't have to feel. Like she doesn't. I tell her sit long enough so you could actually have an emotion. She can't do it.
But you know what? She is the mother I would have liked to have been towards my kids.
Loran and
yeah.
I and Jackie
She-
just said that yesterday. She's a
she
phenomenal mom.
Is a good mom.
She is.
She is a good mom, and
Well, you raised
she
her.
has so much patience. I don't have the patience. I don't have the qualities that she has.
The one thing I love about
And I
her,
love it. I
is-
love that about her.
she will go out. I don't care if she goes out till 3:00 in the morning.
Oh, I learned that about her.
She will wake up the next morning and have those kids in the car at 6:00 driving to San Diego. We are not missing a game. We are not missing practice. Get in the car. My time that I did isn't going to make you guys suffer.
Oh, but she'll be right on time.
Yeah, she'll be right on
On
time.
time.
She'll have sunglasses on. Her hair will be in a ponytail. Doesn't matter. We're doing this. Let's go. Like yesterday, she got to our house yesterday because we did Saturday instead of Sunday. Got there with all 3 kids, and she looked very cute. So we knew she was going somewhere else, but she wasn't going to miss the boys from coming and spending time with all of us. And then she went and did her thing later. Like she's very much, I am a mom first.
Mhm.
She still enjoys her life, but she is a mom first. And that's what I love about her. She's very, very much.
I love her qualities.
But she got that from somebody who had a soccer van.
Well, you know what? That was like of what not to do. That's a what not to be, how not to be.
No,
And
you
no,
were good.
you know what? As the older they got, and because you don't come to some of these realizations till
Mhm.
later.
Mm-hmm.
And like talking to Andrew. Andrew's pretty easy, and I do talk to him.
Andrew's your
This is-
oldest son.
Yeah, this is why I'm the way I am. This is what's transpired because they don't know my life.
Yeah.
They don't. He does, but the 3 below him, they don't know my life. They don't know. They've heard stories, but they don't. They know not of what.
Because they're younger and they didn't see it. They
Well, they
didn't
didn't,
understand it. They didn't live through it. Like
Yeah.
I think Loran lived through a lot of my stuff because I had her at 16,
Yeah.
where Seth at 26 is like, oh, we live in Disneyland. Like, I mean, he doesn't, but he had his issues too. We went through, but definitely not what they were like. What with Loran.
They just
so.
thought I was a square.
We did. We thought you were. But and the
The-
main thing is, I feel like today, as we have to wrap it up, it's time. I don't believe in family secrets. I don't like family secrets. I feel like communication has to be verbally open. I don't think that there's any embarrassment, or we need to protect these people anymore. For me, it's like when something happens to a little girl, a little boy, it has to be spoken about. I'm not protecting anybody. I don't care who you are. Like you're not hurting my child. And my biggest thing that I hear, as much as I try to uplift women all the time, I try to uplift them to be better, do better, especially as parents, because I feel like if one of Lexi's boys came to her and said, hey, Mom, I felt uncomfortable with this guy. He kind of said this or that. Lexi's not the type to say, oh, well, don't say nothing. Lexi will go to hell and back. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I do love about her. And that's what we need to be is as much as we uplift women, at the same time, watch who you have your kids around. Watch the men that come into your life. Trina, the fact that you said that when you were with Boo Boo and this woman said you could possibly be the dad, Vivian was right when she said, the fact that you said, hey, you need to go find out, because most women would have said, out of sight, out of mind, we're not worrying about that kid. We don't need to know that kid. But you were woman enough within yourself to say, no, my child needs to know if there's a sibling out there.
Yeah.
Because if I would have known early enough, maybe my feelings would be different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm 50 years old. My sister's 47. Like our bond is created and it's still tight, whether we like it or not. It's us. That's how it's going to be. And nobody else is going to come into that. And that's how I feel now. So that's why I said it's too late. But as women, we need to be better, do better, stop protecting. We need to protect our kids and our kids first.
Can I make a suggestion?
You can.
On Sundays, when we lived on 17th Street and the kids were in junior high and elementary, on Sundays after dinner, we would go around, and this is the only time they could tell me I did something to them. I would let them be honest, and if each one of us hurt each other or something happened, that was the table right there.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
'Cause
they
my dad used to compare me to my sister, and I said I would never do that. So I allowed them, if I did something wrong, I had to work on it. If
Well, that's
somebody
big
else
of
did
you.
something else,
Yeah.
we had to work on it.
But you were willing to hear it. You were open to it. A lot of people don't want to be open
Oh,
to.
no. I had
They're
to
not the
be.
problem. Everybody else is the
Oh,
problem. This is
no.
how it is. Just deal with it.
Mm-mm.
But they don't think of the children and how it's going to affect them as adults.
Yep.
And that is my main thing is we're hurting these kids. We're not protecting them. We're not listening to them. We're not communicating with them. And that's why for me, I do believe that all things are dark eventually come to light and secrets.
It's
Yeah.
the truth.
I'm
That's
not
it.
a big fan of it.
That even as grown kids, because I with my older son, I like Andrew. You know what? Is there anything you want to tell me? Is there things that I can't change it, but I hope I've shown you, and and you could talk about it, and if there was, I can apologize, but I can't change it.
Yeah.
Anything that's happened, but
Yeah.
I can look at myself.
Yeah.
And he's such a good kid because he makes me feel so loved because he's like, Mom, it's okay, you did good. When you got yourself together, every year got better and better. You got
Aw,
better and better. So
that's
But
so
he's
awesome.
you
that
did
way
what
'cause
you
you
were
raised
supposed to
him.
do.
Yeah.
You raised him.
Yeah, Vivian definitely doesn't give herself enough credit. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Well, I think we have to have a part 2 because this could go. We can go on and on and on. But thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you, Solomon, so much.
Thank you,
Um,
No
Solomon.
problem.
Please follow us on social media, on YouTube, subscribe, TikTok. Thank you guys very, very much. And again, my biggest thing is we need to protect our children.
Yeah.
Whoever you're with, whoever your kids are around, you need to have your eyes and your ears open all the time. Thanks, guys.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
Solomon.
Bye.
Bye.